Common mistakes people make with small wind turbines. The requirements for small wind turbines are in many cases different from large wind turbines and also from photovoltaic. You should know those mistakes before choosing and installing a small wind turbine. My name is Patrick Juttemann. I'm a neutral expert from Germany, and since 2011 I'm operating a website specialized on small wind turbines. So let's start with the first common mistake, and this is not checking the site-specific wind conditions or wind energy potential. I'm talking about the first rough estimate if a site might be suitable for a small wind turbine. Because the most important question is often neglected: is the wind strong enough? In my experience, lots of people are 1 or 2 steps ahead. For instance, they are looking already for a small wind turbine or a certain technology, but they do not ask themselves the most important question: is the wind on my site strong enough? People often pretend that their wind energy potential on their specific location is sufficient, due to simple observations like shaking trees in the wind. In my assumption, people often think, when I can use a solar plant or photovoltaic modules, I can also use a small wind turbine. But this is not the case, because solar energy and wind energy are different. Let me explain this with this illustration. The house on the right has solar modules on the roof. That's no problem because the sun rays are reaching the house. There's no shading. And now let's check this small wind turbine. The strong wind does not reach the rotor of the wind turbine because we have a tree nearby that is blocking the wind. So the energy flow is different. Solar radiation comes from the sky above. Only objects very close to the building will cause shading. But wind energy, usable for the rotor of a windmill, moves parallel to the surface. So also objects that are 100 meters away or even more distant are reducing the energy supplied by the wind. So on this side here, solar energy can be used, but not a small wind turbine. That's why for a small wind turbine, the specific site and its surroundings are crucial. So there might be a property which has good wind potential, but the site next to it does not. So this also means you cannot use wind maps for your specific situation. A wind map gives you a rough estimate of the wind energy potential if you have a good site. To realize a first rough site check, you have to find out your main wind direction. If you do not already know the main wind direction of your region, you should find the information via Google. So just Google it, type in main wind direction and the name of your state or your region. So as an example, let's have a look at this map here. It's somewhere in northern Germany. Here on the left is the wind rose, which shows us the main wind direction of this German region. We see that the main wind direction is west and southwest. The 2 yellow arrows show us the flow of the wind with regard to the main wind direction. The strong wind is coming from the west. As a rough site check, we have to look if there are no barriers blocking the main wind. So, as first example, let's check this location here. Well, it looks like a farm or at least some single houses. And there's free space in western direction from where the strong wind is coming. So this looks good. The second example, well, let's check this side here. That does not look so good because we have a piece of woodland here when at least the wind coming from the southwest is blocked. As a third example, let's check this here, this side. Well, we have a free flow of the main wind, which reaches this location here. And, well, of course, all those settlement areas, for instance here, are not a suitable location. So now, last point concerning the site check of wind conditions. If you live in a mountainous region, you have to check specific local wind systems. There might not be an overall main wind direction, but very local wind conditions. This applies for countries like Switzerland, where you have lots of high mountains and deep valleys. So now let's talk about the next common mistake, and this is installing a tower which is too low. Well, the taller the tower, the higher the rotor above the ground. Therefore the wind gets stronger and the rotor can produce more electricity. So if the tower is too low, you might not produce the amount of electricity you want. And well, in many countries there are certain rules due to the Building Act regarding tower height of small wind turbines. For instance, in Germany there are several federal states where you may install a small wind turbine without a building permit if the overall height is below 10 meters. And I think in Sweden and Holland, for instance, there are similar rules. Might not be 10 meters, but 15 meters or 20 meters. But anyhow, well, the house owner might think, well, great, I do not want to apply for a building permit, so I just use a low tower. But you will be disappointed if the turbine does not produce the power you intended when the wind is not strong enough because of a low tower. Well, so what's the alternative? Just use a taller tower and apply for the building permit. But then you have to calculate your project on a new basis because you have higher costs due to a taller tower, but you also produce more electricity. And the outcome might be that the cost of the produced electricity is decreasing. So this here is a small wind turbine of a private homeowner in Germany, and the capacity is about 2 to 3 kilowatt, and the overall height is below 10 meters, and the owner took the small tower to avoid the building permit. But back here there's a bank or an embankment like a wall, and behind it is a highway, a German Autobahn. But this is also the main wind direction, so this is a wind barrier. And I'm sure that with a higher tower the owner would produce a lot more energy, but he would have applied for the building permit. And yes, dealing with state authorities is time consuming, but it might be worth it if the energy production is a lot higher. Now common mistake number 3. And this is the choice of wind turbine based on capacity in kilowatt. Well, oftentimes people contact me and say that they need a wind turbine with a specific capacity. Like, well, I need a small wind turbine with 5 kilowatt or 10 kilowatt capacity. What do you recommend? Which is the best turbine? But the capacity in kilowatt is not a good baseline for choosing a windmill, because turbines with the same capacity may have very different energy yield. So please have a look at this table here. It shows 3 wind turbines, wind turbine A, B and C, and they all have the same capacity. But the yearly electricity yield is very different. And as you can read here, that's the annual electricity yield at 4 meters per second average wind speed. And wind turbine A has 7,150 kilowatt hours. Electricity yield, wind turbine B about 9,000 kilowatt hours, and wind turbine C has, well, about 14,000 kilowatt hours. This is nearly twice as much as wind turbine A, and again they all have the same capacity. So what's the reason? Well, as you can read here, this is because of the size of the rotor. So it's not the capacity, it's the size of the rotor which is critical for the electricity production of a wind turbine. So what should you do instead when choosing a turbine? Well, first of all, you should determine the average wind speed of your site. For this, you could make a wind measurement. And after that, you have to determine how much electricity the wind turbine has to produce. So determine your target value. It's the electricity in kilowatt hours. Not kilowatt, but kilowatt hours. Now you can check the information of manufacturers. If they have a wind turbine that produces the energy you need based on the average wind speed on your site. Now the last common mistake I would like to mention, and this is selecting a wind turbine without checking independent references. Evaluating the market for small wind turbines, one conclusion is there are significant differences in the quality of the wind turbines. There are many manufacturers with good and proven quality, but the flip side, there is also lots of low quality in the market. Do not rely only on the information of the manufacturer and its sales partners. You have to check independent references. This might be a certification based on IEC 61400-2, Also, a successful and proven operation on an independent test site is helpful, for instance, stated with an independent report on the power curve. A long track record of a manufacturer with good reputation is also helpful. And well, get statements of owners of a small wind turbine. Talk with people that have a specific model installed for some time. What is their experience? And what really counts is the reliable performance of a wind turbine under real and strong wind conditions. Of course, a turbine has to be stormproof. But any theoretical explanations or computer simulations, as well as fancy technical descriptions, are not important. You need references that the turbine works well outside in the strong wind. So I hope you found some of this information useful. Thanks a lot for watching and take care.